Good morning, I'm Angela Lagunsad Castro. It is Friday, the 4th of April, bringing you Morning Matters because your mornings matter. Stories that matter today. 3 Filipinos were arrested in Beijing for alleged espionage, with reports claiming they were collecting data on China's military deployments. The Armed Forces of the Philippines, on the other hand, said it has yet to receive an official report. Cabinet officials skipped the second hearing on former President Duterte's arrest, while Senator Amy Marcos claimed that the government aided the ICC's investigation before his detention. And PDP Laban has asked the Supreme Court to halt internet voting for overseas Filipinos in the upcoming midterm elections. Welcome to our program, Morning Matters, where we talk about the issues you need to know for the rest of your day. Now, first on the agenda, Cabinet officials skipped the second public hearing on the controversial arrest of former President Rodrigo Duterte. Senator Amy Marcos, meanwhile, claimed that the Philippine government helped the International Criminal Court, or ICC, in its investigation of Duterte prior his arrest. Here's the report.
There were lots of empty seats during the second hearing of the Committee on Foreign Relations headed by Senator Amy Marcos. Only 3 resource persons attended the inquiry, which was focused on former President Rodrigo Duterte's arrest. Senator Amy shared information suggesting that the Philippine government had coordinated and communicated with the International Criminal Court before Duterte's arrest. She also claimed that certain ICC personnel allegedly entered the Philippines as early as last year. Among them were Glenn Roderick Thomas Cala, Maya Destura Braquin, William Rosato, and Amir John Kasam. Senator Amy Marcos revealed that these ICC personnel even requested protection, details, and transportation while in the Philippines.
Maliwanag na merong mga dumating na ICC at nagpakilala bilang tauhan talaga ng ICC na may kanya-kanyang espesyalidad. May protection expert, may investigador, may interpreter, may abogado. Humingi rin sila ng protection detail and transport sa Pilipinas. So maliwanag na ang Pilipinas ay tumulong at talagang nagpakita ng partisipasyon. Matagal na ito, Mayo pa, tapos October pa, kaya nagtataka po tayo kung bakit tinatanggi ng ating mga opisyal na may ganito.
Furthermore, the ICC reportedly requested several pieces of information from the government, including bank account records of an individual, blotter and police records from the Batasan Hills Police Station in Quezon City, and hospital records from East Avenue Medical Center. These records were allegedly used to issue an arrest warrant against Duterte. Senator Amy also scrutinized the so-called upland pursuit previously mentioned by CIDG Chief Nicolas Torre. This plan allegedly detailed the arrest of former President Duterte, proving that the arrest was not abrupt but carefully planned.
Maliwanag na ang PNO had prepared a secret plan, upland pursuit, to detain PRRD, including scenarios of arresting him either in Manila or Davao. It also contained maps of properties of the former president, his partner, his allies, with arrows labeling the nearby streets where the PNP could access the property.
Even the airplane used to transport Duterte to The Hague was scrutinized during the hearing.
Madalas gamitin ang eroplanong ito ng ating Pangulo at pinagtataka namin dahil napaka-stricto ng security para sa Pangulo, hindi po ba? At alam natin na meron rin naman presidential plane ang Air Force. Kaya't eto nga, nagiging himala kung bakit iba yung ginagamit at bakit nagamit ulit pagkatapos dinala si Presidente Duterte, ginamit ulit papunta sa amin sa Lawag.
Meanwhile, Senator Bato de la Rosa condemned the executive branch official snub of the Senate hearing. He immediately called for a subpoena of all absent officials so they could face the next hearing.
Wala na respetuhan ito sa isang kapwa co-equal branch of government. So, Madam Chair, I would like to move that we issue a subpoena to these government officials to require their presence in the next hearing.
Palace Press Officer Undersecretary Claire Castro brushed aside De La Rosa's warning.
Nasa kanya po yan. Kung magpapasupi na siya, siguraduhin lamang din po niya na siya po ay magpapakita. Hindi po ba niya natatandaan na nagkaroon na ng first hearing? Siya po yata yung wala. That was an opportunity para sa kanya para magtanong.
For his part, Executive Secretary Bersamin once again invoked executive privilege in the decision to skip the hearing.
Yung invitation ni Senator Amy was quite specific about the topics. We determined that there are many probable or likely topics na covered by those matters that would come under yung executive privilege. Our cabinet secretaries and other executive officers would be not forced to respond to questions concerning those matters.
Senator Amy said another hearing will be conducted where she expects the absent cabinet members to finally attend.
Meanwhile, supporters of former President Rodrigo Duterte continue to gather outside the ICC detention center. Let's get more updates from Mon Gualvez, who joins us live from The Hague, Netherlands. Hey Mon, what are the supporters doing outside the ICC detention center?
Angela, it's been 3 weeks now pero patuloy pa rin ang pagdating ng mga supporters ni former President Rodrigo Duterte dito nga sa labas ng ICC Detention Center. Hindi na sila nagsasagawa ng programa, tanging mga pagpapapicture na lamang. At the same time, may iba na talagang may bit-bit pa ng mga birthday greeting cards that we saw in the past days. Gusto nila itong ibigay kay former President kahit it's been a week already after his birthday at gusto na talaga doon nilang magbigay ng mensahe or message of support and love for him para ipaalam lang na they are here supporting his fight during this time at gusto lang doon talaga nilang mabigyan ng time para doon hindi ma-bore si former president sa loob ng detention center. So patuloy, until now we are actually surprised with the number of OFWs. Somehow yung iba talagang galing pa sa iba't ibang parts of Europe at yung iba bumabiyahe talaga from different parts of the country outside the region. Angela.
Mon, meron na bang reaction si VP Sara doon sa naging tugon naman ng palasyo doon sa pagkakasabi niya na nagpapasalamat siya dahil doon sa kanyang renewed relationship with her father? Sabi ang kanyang exact words ay, glad I could help.
Oo, kahapon talagang buong araw natin inabangan yung pagbisita ni Vice President Sara Duterte dito nga sa ICC Detention Center pero wala pa, hindi pa siya bumisita kahapon para mahingan nga sana natin ang pakayag tungkol dito at sa iba pang mga issue. So we are still waiting for that to happen kasi nga again the information that we had is most probably until this week na lamang si VP Sara kailangan na bumalik sa Philippines, although she admits na she's still waiting for the final document na manggagaling nga dito sa ICC just to confirm na mga ipapasa nila legal team for the defense.
Right.
Angela.
All right. Maraming salamat sa iyo, Mon Gualvez, reporting live from the Netherlands. Now, don't go away. We'll be back with more stories after the break. I'm Angela Lagunsad Castro. This is Morning Matters. 3 Filipinos were reportedly arrested in Beijing for suspected espionage. Chinese state media cited an investigation showing that Philippine intelligence agencies have been gathering information about China's military deployments. Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Guo Jiakun said Chinese authorities will strictly handle the case. The Armed Forces of the Philippines said it has yet to receive an official report on the matter. Now to discuss that, joining us today is National Security Council spokesperson Jonathan Malaya. Good morning po sa inyo. Thanks for joining us today.
Yes, good morning. Thank you for having me.
Yes. What information do we have po as National Security Council receive about the arrest of these 3 Filipinos in Beijing?
Well, as you very well know, this is a very sensitive issue.
Yeah.
No, and it was just reported yesterday by Chinese state media, the Global Times, that there were 3 alleged Filipinos that were involved in espionage that were arrested. So what they did was to coordinate with the Department of Foreign Affairs to verify this information. You know, anything that comes out of Chinese state media, we have to verify. Because
Right.
as you very well know, no, this is also part of their propaganda. So the Department of Foreign Affairs is now looking into this issue.
Yeah, but I believe we have an agreement with China. I just forgot what it means, that they have to notify us 4 days after the supposed arrest. Did that happen?
Exactly. That's why yesterday, as soon as the news broke out, I was in communication with the Department of Foreign Affairs, and I immediately requested them to verify this information. Was the Philippine Embassy notified? Was the Consul General in Guangzhou? I think this is the nearest, no? Because based on the news reports coming from the Chinese state media, that the arrest happened in Hainan Island. So that would be under the jurisdiction of our Consulate General in Guangzhou. So as of yesterday, they have yet to come back to us. So at present, what needs to be done insofar as we're concerned, given that this is a very sensitive issue, is first determine if indeed there was the arrest of these 3 Filipinos and on what basis was that arrest made.
So I'm assuming hindi pa po ito pwedeng pangalanan, ADG.
Yes, may
Supposedly.
mga pangalan na po na inilabas yung Chinese state media, but of course to protect these Filipinos, alleged
Right.
Filipinos. Kasi,
Yes.
as I said, we have to be very careful about what's happening. Alam nyo naman po, hindi naman ito yung unang time na meron tayong ganitong issue with China. And
Yeah.
they have their own version of events, right?
Yes, yes, yes.
In everything that happens in Baho de Masinloc, and especially in Ayungin Shoal, there's always this element of propaganda to show to the world an image, no, and signals to the rest of the world from Beijing. So we're taking this very delicately, no. So I think, as I said, the DFA will hopefully make a statement today whether they have confirmed that that 3
Right.
Filipinos were actually arrested, and on what basis were they arrested.
I was wondering, ADG, if this is the same, kasi I read a report saying na March 13 po yung report saying na meron nga pong 3 Filipino, pero may naunang 2 Filipino allegedly arrested doon sa China, and they were from Palawan. Is this the same people?
Yun nga po yung isa pang inaaral namin, kasi there are conflicting statements coming from Beijing. At the same time, it's not exactly clear when these arrests were made, no? So there's this dissonance, if we can call it that, because there has been reports coming from Palawan that there were certain individuals, Filipino nationals, no, who are part of their scholarship, no, who went on a scholarship which the Chinese government sponsored, no. And then after finishing their scholarship, they went back to the Philippines. They were
Right.
offered employment opportunities while they were in China, and then they returned to China to work. And then there were reports that they were placed under police custody. For what reason, we do not know, no, exactly. And then a few months later, no,
Ito na
a few
yun.
weeks later, meron ng ganito. So,
Oo.
it's very difficult for us, since I'm from the National Security Council. It's very
Right, right.
difficult for us to comment until we have the entire picture. Kasi, as I said, very difficult to be responding to statements from China because there's always the element of propaganda, and there's always the element of gray zone, and always the element of deception. So we're looking into this issue very carefully, and we expect the DFA to issue a
Okay.
statement today.
Doon po, EDG, doon sa kanilang article, they named this certain Richie Herrera. Sinasabi nila an operative within the Philippine Military Intelligence. Recruited daw po itong allegedly na mga naaresto. Do we know of a certain Richie Herrera?
As I said, because of national security considerations, no, I cannot comment right now. Tingnan muna natin, no, where this will lead us, and let's allow the DFA to handle it. In my discussions with the DFA, they assured me that if indeed 3 Filipinos were arrested for alleged crimes committed against the Chinese state, that the Philippine government will provide all consular assistance, no, that is required, no, that according to the law must be allowed, so that these Filipinos' rights, no, if needed, if indeed they were arrested, will be respected.
Okay, so we'll get back to you on that po, ADG. But ito po bang incident na to, meron po bang, will this pose any risk to Philippine-China relations, especially in the light of, alam naman po natin, existing geopolitical tensions?
Well, I hope not, no. We have diplomatic relations. We have very good cultural ties, economic ties with the People's Republic of China. I hope this will not be an issue. We also arrested Chinese nationals who were doing espionage activities in the Philippines, and we presented evidences of that to the public. No, some who were arrested in Palawan, in other parts of the Philippines, in Manila, and we have clear pieces of evidence, no, which according to China is not true. No, so they consider what we did as harassment, allegedly to Chinese nationals in the Philippines. So, of course, there's a tension between our countries arising from the dispute, no, the dispute in the West Philippine Sea. But we hope that this will not be a significant blow to Philippine-Chinese relations.
Yun nga po, ADJ, I just wanna ask you din po doon sa update, doon supposedly, doon sa mga nahuli naman natin dito, na allegedly Chinese spies. Meron na po ba tayong update doon, aside from what you have said, you've mentioned? And have we talked to our counterparts regarding this?
Well, the case is now in court, no? And we assured the Chinese government that they will have their day in court. They will be able to present their evidences. They are allowed consular visits. They are allowed to legal representation, as opposed to China, which is a communist country. The Philippines is a democratic country. And that also applies to citizens of other nations that face cases in the Philippines. So it's now in court. The Department of Justice has already filed cases against these 5 individuals that were arrested by the Philippine security forces and law enforcement agencies. Gumugulong na yung kaso laban sa kanila.
Okay. All right. So before we let you go, ADG, also we would like to ask for your comment regarding the recent statement of our AFP Chief General Romeo Bronner regarding the potential conflict in Taiwan.
Yes.
Yeah, your comments on that po. What are we doing?
Well, essentially, what the Chief of Staff was saying is that there's this possibility of an invasion of Taiwan. No, he did not say that there will be an invasion. He just said there's this possibility. And it is the role of the armed forces of the Philippines, in particular the Northern Luzon Command, to be ready for any contingency to assist our nationals who are there. There are around 150,000 Filipino nationals. No? And hindi naman ito bago. No? There has been emergencies in the past, particularly in the Middle East, wherein Filipino nationals naipit sa bakbakan, like Lebanon, for example, Syria, no, in Israel, Hamas, and all of that, no. So Egypt also, and we have always supported our Filipino nationals. We sent ships, chartered planes, and ito nga lang, no, mas malapit sa atin. So instead
Yes.
of a task force being organized, it's the role of the Northern Luzon Command to assist the evacuation of Filipinos if it happens. So
All right.
more of ano lang ito, contingency planning,
Right.
preparedness, no? And that's really the job of the
Yeah.
armed forces of the Philippines.
All right, thank you so much for your time, National Security Council Assistant Director General Jonathan Malaya. Thank you so much.
For having me.
Stay tuned. Morning Matters will be right back after a short break. Good morning. You're still watching Morning Matters here on One News. PDP Laban has asked the Supreme Court to halt internet voting for overseas Filipinos in the upcoming midterm elections. The political party filed a petition for a temporary restraining order or TRO on Thursday. They said it violates Section 31 of the Election Automation Law, which mandates manual counting of ballots at the precinct level. The group added that online voting should not have been introduced as digital ballots are not authorized by existing laws. COMELEC Chairman George Garcia said they are ready to defend internet voting before the Supreme Court. Let's get more details from one of the petitioners, Attorney Israelito Torreon, joining us today. Good morning, Attorney. Thanks for joining us.
Hello, good morning, and good morning to all viewers.
Attorney, can you expound on the main legal concerns that prompted PDP Laban to challenge internet voting?
Well, actually, there are two parts here in this petition. One is the polite insistence for the implementation of Section 31 of Republic Act 9369 or Election Automation Law and the prohibition of online voting based on the provisions of Republic Act 10590 and at the basis of which is there is no law yet which implements. Wala pa pong batas na nag-implementa po ng online voting po dito sa ating bansa at saka overseas voting po.
Right. Pero attorney, sabi po ni COMELEC Chair Garcia, he was citing this Republic Act
28.
number 10590. No? Let me just say it to you. The law amending the overseas absentee voting law, which says the commission may explore other more efficient, reliable, and secure modes or systems ensuring the secrecy and sanctity of the entire process, whether paper-based, electronic-based, or internet-based technology, or such other latest technology available.
Well, the
Your
answer
comment
to
on
that
that?
is we teach that in law school, verba legis. You just read the law, authority to explore other modes or systems using automated election system and make recommendations thereof to the Joint Oversight Committee, which means that the COMELEC can explore, study, but it has no authority to implement because it can only make recommendations. The Commission on Elections, with due respect to the COMELEC chairman, is not Congress. It is not the body which is granted by the 1987 Constitution to craft laws. It is supposedly a body to which is tasked to implement our election laws. So since there is no law on the matter, much as we would like to commend the good intentions perhaps of the good chairman of the Commission on Elections, the fact remains na wala pa pong batas dito. Kailangan po kasi maraming pag-usapan po dito, no? Maraming mga details po na kailangan himay-himayin bago po ito isa sa batas. Itong Section 28 is not an authority on the part of the COMELEC to act like it is already Congress.
I think he also said during one of his interviews na parang he asked also the Congress at wala naman daw sinabi na bawal ito. Your reaction to that po?
Of course, Congress is not the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court is the body which can adjudicate controversies. So the matter can only be resolved with finality by the Supreme Court. And that is why we wrote COMELEC and no reply. So we are forced to file a case with the Supreme Court so that the matter can be resolved with finality.
All right, so are there specific risks in the COMELEC system po that you believe could compromise election integrity? Tulad nga po itong internet voting na kayo po ay talagang kumukontra.
Hindi naman sa kumukontra, no? Hindi lang kasi nakasaad sa batas yan. And there are really legitimate fears that we have to address. Now, when we went to Hong Kong, no, prior to the arrest of President Rodrigo Duterte, na-meet namin yung mga OFWs and they aired to us, to Attorney Jimmy Bondoc, to Attorney Vic Rodriguez, to Attorney Raul Lambino, about the dangers in online voting, especially in the light of the fact na merong hacking, etc. etc. So nung nakita kasi namin yung sistema na digital voting lang, whereas yung batas natin kailangan paper ballots, tapos kailangan merong sistema po na yung manual counting po during the in the precinct level, and then sana na-implement din ito sa embassy so that we can verify whether or not the votes cast were really counted, and yung resulta po sa election returns na mapalabas ay pareho ba doon sa manual counting of the votes before the results are transmitted. Wala po ito sa batas. It would have its own canvassing on its own. It would generate its own results without any assurance whatsoever as to how the results came about. No? So yun po ang mga fears po ng OFWs natin. And even here in our country, kaya nga nagpa-implement kami ng nag-file kami ng petition na ma-apply sana yung Section 31 of Republic Act 9369, because the intention really of the law is to the effect that counting should still be manual. It is only the canvassing as well as the consolidation of votes which should be electronic. And if you read Section 210 of the Omnibus Election Code in relation with Section 12 of Republic Act 6646 and now Section 31 of 9369, manual counting po. Yung electronic ay yung transmission, canvassing as well as consolidation of votes. Hindi po kasali yung counting.
Pero sinasabi po kasi ng COMELEC, attorney, itong internet voting po pwedeng magtaas po, no, mag-increase ng voter turnout. Your reaction to that? Among OFWs, of course.
Yeah, we recognize that. We should do it properly. We should do it properly in the light of the fact that the OFWs are wary. They have certain fears insofar as this online voting is concerned. There was no consultation, proper consultation, real consultation done. Are you aware that the provider of this this online voting is a Filipino company, and we have no information as to whether or not this company was able to serve in other jurisdictions in the past so that they can show prior experience. Kung mag-hire nga tayo ng abogado, kailangan siguraduhin muna natin kung nadaanan na ba niya ito, magaling ba talaga ito, meron ba talaga itong past experience. How much more here when we are dealing with the most treasured right, most important right, and that is right of suffrage, which is the foundation of representative democracy. It is in fact the bedrock upon which all rights are based upon. So kailangan pag-aralan ito ng mabuti, hindi po minamadali masyado. Although maganda yung intention, we have shown that it can be done, but let the present system work. Congress enacts the law, makes the law, crafts the law, and COMELEC implements the law. Hindi po pwede na yung COMELEC na ang mag-craft ng law at mag-implement pa ng law.
Opo. Attorney, I understand kasama po sa mga petitioners po ninyo ay mga 5 to 6 OFWs. Am I correct,
Yes.
Attorney?
Yes.
So,
actually, ang dami pong pumunta sa opisina.
Yun nga po eh.
200, oo. And we could not accommodate them kasi ang yung requirement ng photocopying, yung
Right.
requirement ng notarization. So, very laborious and kaya nga we limited it to 6 talaga. Supposedly, 3 nga lang sana yung gusto ko. Pero yung iba gusto talaga magsama. So, we limited it to 6.
Yeah, the reason why I asked that because I was wondering if you feel that ito po talaga yung majority na concern ng mga OFWs natin given that we have millions of OFWs all around the world that are going to vote this coming election. Sabi nyo nga po, walang sa side ng COMELEC, wala po pagkonsulta sa kanila. Pero po sa inyo, sabi nyo 200. Do you think that's a majority already?
Well, we only, if we will let the 1.9 registered voters to file a petition in the Supreme Court, that would cause a trouble in the Supreme Court because the sheer number of bond papers alone that would be, stacked before the Supreme Court would really cause space problems. No, we have to only get the, representations of the OFWs and overseas voters. The fact remains that they welcome online voting. No, I would recognize that, but they would welcome an online voting mechanism which is properly studied and which would, be at least minimize cheating and which would insulate them from possible fraud, election fraud. But in this present setup, the minimum system capabilities that would that would prevent possible hacking, cheating, to their minds and to our minds may not yet be present.
Right. Attorney, some critics are actually saying na ito daw petition na to is politically motivated and it will only suppress ang pagboto ng mga OFWs natin.
Well, that's baloney because this is not politically motivated. As a matter of fact, this is done for the Filipino people. Why? Because if this will be granted, we can still vote. Life goes on. No? We have mail voting, we have in-person voting, which more or less protects really the integrity of the election process. And our intention really here is to ensure that the votes are counted. Casting of ballots is not the true expression of democracy. The true expression of democracy is the assurance that the votes cast are really counted. It's the assurance that your choice really matters and that it is reflected in the results of the election. Yun po ang sa akin real essence of right of suffrage.
Alright, on that note, maraming salamat po sa inyong oras, Attorney Israelito Torion. Thanks for joining us.
Maraming salamat.
Now, don't go away. More matters to discuss after the break. Keep it here on One News. You're watching Morning Matters. I'm Angela Lagunzad Castro. Breaking taboos on sexual wellness, Doc Rica Cruz educates and empowers through advocacy and her app Unprude. Today, she shares her journey and insights live here in the studio. Welcome to the program, Doc Rica. It's so nice to see you again.
Good morning. It's so nice to see you.
Looking
I miss
beautiful as
you.
ever.
Just like you.
Mutual Admiration
I
Society. Anyway, so we would like to know what inspired you to pursue a career in sex therapy, especially in a culturally conservative, setting like the Philippines. Napaka-conservative natin.
Super,
diba?
no? Ang dami na nga nangyari sa
Although may
akin.
mga counting tweaks na, pero still, I'd still
Yes.
consider our country conservative.
Of course. It is very conservative. Alam mo, my showbiz answer is, I love sex. That's the showbiz answer.
And what's your other answer?
But the bigger story behind that is that growing up, I've experienced a lot of negative stories and narratives about sex. But it was only when I was already an adult, when I married my husband, first husband, and he stopped having sex with me, that I started questioning myself, and it affected me as a person, as a woman. So I said, what can I do? Parang I shouldn't feel inadequate. I shouldn't be begging for it. So I started studying it because I couldn't find help here. And because I couldn't find help here, I studied it and I said, okay, I'm going to help other people. And that's how I started.
But how did you break the stigma?
I had indecent proposals. I had a lot of these things. But I stuck to my core, which is science. I have a PhD in psychology and I studied sex. So it was really science and being able to communicate that science to people using their own language. So parang mas ginawa kong mas masaya yung sex. Kasi masaya naman talaga siya, diba?
Right.
Even with shows, the feelings. Ganun yung ginawa
I remember
namin.
that.
So a lot of people were able to relate. And a lot of people were also able to open up about their problems with sex.
I think kasi parang being able to know something that you really want to know is the key eh. Kasi parang yung pag hindi mo alam, medyo may fear ka doon at hindi mo naiintindihan. So knowing it, diba, properly, I think that breaks the barrier. Right?
Yes, actually, that's the second level. It's really just talking about it.
Right.
So being able to talk about it, na hindi ka nahihiya, hindi ka natatakot, there's no shame and no judgment, even with how you speak of it, it will help other people understand that there's really shouldn't be shame around sex.
Ano ba yung mga common misconceptions about sexual wellness? You call it sexual wellness.
Yes. Well, that it's just about the behavior. That we're just talking about intercourse. When I say sex, the first thing that comes to people's minds is, okay, it's intercourse. But it's really not, right? Sex is more about, I always say this, sex is more about your relationship with yourself, your relationship with your partner, and how you treat other people around you.
Really?
Yes. It's not just the behavior. Parang
Paano
if-
yung it caught my attention yung how you treat the people around you? Paano yun?
You know,
Paano yung connection?
sexism, how you respect other people
Right.
in their sexual expression, that's very cultural and societal. So if you see them as who they are and not judge them based on their sexuality and their sexual expression, that will also change how you treat them.
Right. Oo nga, I get your point. Makes sense naman.
Yes,
Pero
yes.
ano yung mga magiging advice mo sa women out there watching us and of course yung mga followers mo na you have encountered the same situations like you before. Yung they feel guilty, they feel ashamed about, diba, pag-usapin na ganito.
Okay. Unang-una, kunyari, you have sex, right? Or you have that shame. You need to acknowledge that shame. That it's okay to feel that shame because we're conditioned that way, diba? But then, you also have to tell yourself that being sexual or sexual wellness, it's not a violation of who you are as a person because guilt and shame comes from you thinking that you're violating your own standard and you're violating society. It's not a violation, it's actually a celebration, right?
It's not a violation, it's a
celebration.
celebration. Quotable quotes.
Thank you. So being able to embrace your sexual self is a celebration of yourself.
Right.
And we need to celebrate our own being.
Totoo
di ba?
naman. I agree, di ba?
Yes.
Pero how do you balance, di ba, yung being an advocate for this sexual wellness and being a mother as well? Di ba, ayan.
May balance ba?
Yung natatanong ko, meron ba?
Wala.
Walang balance. Pero
Wala.
how do you do it? Especially
With
open
sheer
discussions to with kids,
determination.
ha?
Yeah. Well, with me as a person, it's with sheer determination. But with kids, I am very lucky that my eldest, I started talking about sex with her by my side. So she knows. So she started also having her own sex ed column. And we're very, very open to each other. For example, she's 14 years old. And I had my sexual debut when I was 14. So we talk about it. Like, are you ready? Are you sure that you want to do it? And she said, no, Mama, I don't. So it's that kind of, I guess, connection and relationship with your child that would help you actually guide them.
It's
through
good that
this
you mentioned that,
process.
Doc Rica, kasi maganda yung relationship nyo, you guys talk about it. Pero yung first time that you guys will talk about it, I'm sure a lot of parents would relate to me on this or would be on this na saying na, paano ko yung open to? Especially if you have a teenager na anak, di ba? Di ba tinanong ko na sa before? Di ba? How are you going to open this to your kid? Especially nga kasi in an environment that you're not really used to it. Di ba? Napag-usapan.
Alam mo, madami silang kwento. And usually, madami silang kwento about their friends, about themselves, that they want to share with you. They also just don't know how to share with you. So, I tell the parents that I talk to na, ikaw na muna magkwento. Ano bang nangyari
start sharing.
sa'yo? Oo. And then ask parang, are you experiencing the same thing? O ano ba yung nangyari? Kasi pare-pareho lang naman yan nung teenager ka.
Yeah.
Diba,
But during our
nanliligawan
time
ka.
kasi talagang, diba, kaya hindi natin magawa sa anak natin. Kasi during our time, actually sa generation ng cycle, during our time, hindi natin mauusap yan sa mga magulang natin.
Hindi.
Baka batukan tayo.
Hindi
Diba?
talaga. Yeah.
Oo.
Because, yun nga, they weren't educated on how to talk to us about it. But now we have the resources, diba? So we can actually educate ourselves and let go of the shame and takot to talk to our children about it. Kailangan mag-start sa atin as
Yeah.
parents.
I agree. Pero when you say we have resources, what are those? Internet?
Yeah, you have internet. Well, you have the Unproved app. Thank you.
Yes, of course. Diba? Ganda segue, diba?
Yes. So we have the Unproved app. It's a space where you can really learn about sex and also ask people about what you're going through. Like if you have questions on how to talk to your child about it, we have resources there. We have activity cards, question cards that you can ask your child. That yung pag casual conversations or even what do you call that? Play activities. Yes, and a community that you can, parang forum.
Really? So you download that app, tapos available naman siya sa both.
Google Play and the App Store.
How long
Yes.
has it been running?
Okay, we launched September 2023, then we found out the problems and the feedback of the people, and then we relaunched December with the community.
Kamusta naman?
Oh, it's fun. It's
Like,
fun. Kasi nakikita ko yung mga tanong ng mga tao, hindi na lang doon sa social media. And what we do differently on the app is that it's uncensored, yes, but we moderate it so much so that you can ask questions about sex uncensored, but it has to be very respectful.
Right.
Even your answers are respectful. Kasi our point here is to build,
totoo.
sexually respectful societies, and we need to teach people how to do that.
I agree. Kasi diba, yes, your opinion matters, your feelings are important, pero yung bad behavior is not.
Hindi talaga.
Diba? It's not allowed.
Oo, hindi talaga allowed yon. Kahit yung mga nagjo-joke about sex, hindi talaga.
Totoo.
Yung nambabastos, hindi. So we have to teach people how to talk about sex properly, respectfully, nang hindi mo nakikita na meron siyang pinapatamaan na tao.
Exactly. Pero when it comes to education systems natin, yung mga policies, so, ano ba, kung bawat tanungin ka, resource person, ano yung mga changes that you want to improve, to include in our policies here.
Alam mo, sinabi ko sa sarili ko na hindi ako papasok sa mga ganyang usapan, mga politika. Pero dahil mahal kita, I will do it for you. Unang-una, no, sana hindi maging optional ang comprehensive sex ed. Kasi yun yung pinag-uusapan. Kailangan talaga lahat ng bata ay dumaan dito. At yung magtuturo, ito pinaka-importante, Angela. Yung magtuturo, they're trained properly. And when I say trained properly, yung maayos na training, hindi lang yung weekend workshop, hindi lang yung parang pinuntahan lang isang beses tapos kaya na nila magturo. Hindi kasi dapat sila mismo naiintindihan nila yung sexual self nila bago sila makapagturo sa mga bata kung ano ba talaga ito.
Oo.
Wala tayong ganun
ganun,
masyadong
no?
training.
Kasi what do you feel about nga yung nangyari na recent, few months ago na discussion about it na dapat daw tanggalin muna yung yung sex education sa school because tinuturuan yung mga kabataan na, 'di ba, about these things na nawawala daw yung innocence.
About pleasure, masturbation. Yun eh. Kaya ako sinabi kaninang one of the misconceptions is when you look at sex as behavior only, as intercourse only. Kasi napaka-narrow-minded nitong perspektibo na to. But really, like what I said, sex is a lot of things. It also teaches your children about values, about consent, about relationships, about love. So, hindi lang dapat natin tinitignan yung sex na eto lang to. Hindi, malaki siya at bilang sex educator, no, kailangan talaga na bata pa lang yung anak mo, tinuturuan mo na siya ng sex education. 4 years old, 5 years old, ano bang dapat mo ituro? Siyempre, hindi mo ituturo yung intercourse. Ang ituturo mo ay yung consent.
Of course.
Yung
Nobody
body
touches
parts.
that, no?
Yes, yung bodily autonomy, yung kind of relationship ninyong mag-asawa, diba? This is love, this is family.
Right.
That's part of sex education.
Wow, very meaningful discussion. Siguro last na lang,
Dami ko
Doc Rica, dalawang sinabi. No? Circling back dun sa iyong app, paano ba ito makakatulong, di ba? Itong sexual education and wellness sa Asia, itong app mo.
Okay, that's really our goal, no? It's really to be the pioneer in sex education and therapy, sexual wellness in the whole of Southeast Asia and even Asia because it's the first sexual wellness app in Asia. And what we want is to be able to provide culturally grounded and scientific information about sex and that respectful space to talk about sex without it being censored because I know that we can do it.
We can. All right, maraming salamat for joining me today.
Thank you.
Thank you. That was sex therapist Doc Rica Cruz joining us today. All right, and that's today's episode of Morning Matters. I'm Angela Lagunsad Castro. We are One News, all sides, all the time.